Hey Amit, happy Tuesday. How are you?
Good. Hey, Sree. Nice to see you.
So, Amit, you want to give us a quick soundbite of what is UX Boost?
UX Boost is a mechanism or a set of tools that you can use to boost your user experience. What we do is help customers really build good user experiences. That includes conversions, reduced churn, and overall their whole user experience. And
Mhm.
we are trying with UX Boost to help them, do a quick analysis on their website or their application, and we provide them recommendations. We help you optimize every step of the process.
Got it. What I found useful was I could plug in the name of my product, linklibrary.ai, into UX Boost, and it gave me a quick report to say where are the things that I'm doing well and what may be some opportunities to improve. So, in my mind, I was sort of getting a credit score type of thing for my website, and that's really how I relate a scorecard from UX Boost. So, yeah, it was pretty nifty for me to take a look at. So now let's move on, Amit, to the how are you building this? If you can maybe talk to me about, but even like start out with where did you get the inspiration for this idea from, and how long have you been building it? Talk to me a little bit about the team that you're working with. But I really then want to go deep into, your tech stack and how you're going about, building this product.
We have been building products for startups. Most recently, one of our startups was acquired by 7-Eleven for a $65 million exit. Started from concept to the whole, exit. What we realized is that every step of the way, they really focused on what is going to be useful for the end user. So things like, you have to really empathize with the end user and figure out what they really want. And they have a plethora of products. They have products that are dashboards, driver apps, a bunch of other support and ancillary apps. Each one was optimized for that specific use case. So building products for companies, we realize user experience is no matter how good your product is, if the user experience from a visually, like, you can see that, it says a very jazzy UI, but if it doesn't solve the task, if somebody is spending too much time on doing a specific task, that means you have a problem with the UX. And that's what we helped solve. Inspiration came from users struggling to use, we had a onboarding app for drivers who they had to go through a multi-step onboarding process, and that was really cumbersome for them to really, and so people just abandoned that whole process.
Hmm.
They had to go through stringent verification, there was compliance, a lot of other things. So making that whole process easy really solved that problem for our client. And doing this over and over with other companies, we realized there has to be a mechanism for automating this. We have a lot of, the foundation kind of rules and things that govern this process of how you come up with effective UI or user experience. And that is kind of the cornerstone. We started with the conceptual model, like, okay, these are the set of rules. For example, you have cognitive biases, you have UX laws, you have research methods, all these things that are really bound to standardization, but not really giving you, it's difficult to apply it.
Hmm.
So initially start with the concept saying, okay, what users need is an easy mechanism of they can just plug in a URL, get a kind of a analysis of their, and this is all context based. Like what we're really building is context based on demographics, psychographics, what is the target audience, what is the business model, and going deep down into really understanding what the users are, what is business is trying to address, and what are the users looking for.
Got it.
So based on that, what we were able to do is extract that into a set of rules that we could then plug into AI and go through a very complex workflow for analyzing, doing a page by page analysis, and then the overall analysis of a business. So it usually starts with just scrolling a website, getting the context, the content and the page snapshot, and
Yeah,
then actually coming up with analysis for each of those based on this foundation.
got it. So let me actually pull up the website just so people can take a look at this. So we are talking about UXBoost.ai, where you can go plug in your website name and it gives a quick analysis of what the product is all about. So the audience that I usually have listen into my segment are slightly more technical people. So I wanted to give a sense of where they can find this product and how they can use it. But if you want to maybe talk to me a little bit about the tech stack that is powering UX Boost, and then we can go from there.
When we started with the concept of building, let's take a simple website and figure out what users can. We built a lot of guides initially. We started experimental tools like Replit. Replit was really kind of the agent one, then agent two, and now agent three. It has evolved quite rapidly. But what I like about Replit is really if you want to build standard websites or just a initial phase of your company, it's a good tool to have because it provides you rapid deployment. You can come up with the concept of a website or an app. You can design it in a week and they provide you the whole end-to-end way of just deploying the app in production.
Correct.
Includes database integration, workflows. They have a lot of different connectors. But I think the simplicity of and the way they are doing it right now with Agent 3 is having like a multi-agent system where you have a designer, you have a testing agent, you have all these agents working together. And there you can kind of really simplify the process by just tweaking the agents. So you can ask it to go, hey, if you want to go long running, if you want to do long running tasks, you can now designate that with Agent 3.
Got it. So you've really landed on Replit as your prototyping software.
Sure, yeah.
Got it.
It's
So,
great for prototyping.
so are you then using Figma or you're not using Figma at all because you're using Replit?
Figma for certain aspects of the application,
Mhm.
really for the entire website. I think we are in the newer version that we're launching, we have certain aspects of it because really the Replica is not good at design.
What you're really saying is, compared to prior times where you may have extensively used Figma, your amount of Figma work that you're doing has reduced, but there is still a place for you to use Figma for certain, screens and certain design.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. What about, have you evaluated other tools like Bolt and Lovable, and why did you land on Replit?
We evaluated Bolt and Lovable initially. What we really wanted was a mechanism because Replit provides you the end-to-end solution because it has a built-in cloud database, built-in deployment. You can share it. And the whole idea is actually just online. You don't have to download anything. You can download an app to make it more resilient if you want to work locally. But other than that, I mean, it's not great for enterprise applications. It's good for a website and onboarding flows that you can quickly kind of prototype and implement them.
Got it.
So it's great for that.
Okay, so let's talk about after you do prototyping in Replit, what is the next step in your journey?
The next step in the journey, so where Replit really falls apart, is really the ability to do multi-tenant applications, including the ability to do OAuth, any third-party integrations that you require. And we kind of tried that using BetterAuth, you know, NextAuth, a bunch of other open source frameworks, but then landed up using Clerk, which is a purpose-built tool for managing members, organizations, and their whole authentication authorization. And that's worked really very well. But then we had to back that up with a more scalable database, which was we landed up using Superbase, which has also a lot of core features. Plug this together to make it like a cohesive application.
I picked it up that you have Clerk, you have Superbase, but what is really your front end and what is your back end? Are you doing React Node, or what's your front end and back end like?
We're using Next.js and Node
Oh,
primarily. Again, all the frameworks that in between the front end and back end, what are the best practices are using, specific API frameworks. We're using a lot of security pieces in between to ensure that, we are secure end to end. So it's just a lot of open source frameworks that are out there. I think Next.js is pretty good. For the front end, we use Tailwind primarily.
Okay.
A lot
And
of
did you say you
modernized.
use Node for the backend?
Yes,
Okay.
for the
Okay, got it. And who's your cloud provider?
we primarily use Google. Replit actually also deploys to Google, but
Okay.
we use for the backend core engine is again completely different technology stack. We have a mixture of Python, Node.js, and also in some cases we have .NET, just to because each one actually suffices that use case very well. And the core engine is built on the backend for that is MongoDB because primarily we're dealing with lots and lots of data, and this is primarily JSON data that has to be moved across.
So Superbase only for prototyping, or do you actually have the same Superbase in production also?
Superbase is in production primarily because it provides row level security. So before multi-tenant, agency partners, that is a very good solution because primarily, they want data isolation without actually having separate databases. So we can do that with row level security, and Superbase is a great platform for scaling that and applying all those, rules, specific row level rules to
Okay.
help you accomplish that.
Okay, makes sense. And then what about your developers and the dev team? What kind of IDEs are you guys using, if you want to speak to some of that?
So we started with GitHub Copilot. There was like early days of it, and then we like literally immediately shift to Cursor because it was a much better product. And these cycles that we go through, we come up with a concept, prototyping to production is within a week. That was the initial, and now we can do that like in a day or couple of days if it's based on the feature complexity. We literally are pushing code to production every day.
Got it.
That's possible because of Rep Cursor. We use Player MCP server. We are actually launching our own MCP server, which can similar to Playwright, but much more advanced in terms of capabilities using like the agentic loop that'll give you feedback while you're in developing your application within your IDE.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So are you primarily all of you using Cursor, or do you also mix in Claude or anything else like that from a coding assistant standpoint?
Yeah, we also start some of our team members using Cloud Code because
Okay.
it's for long running tasks. It's much better than Cursor, and it can go on to do quite complex features from, just the concept to giving you multiple options saying, hey, this is the plan. And the output is we've seen is much better than Cursor. You know, if you just leave it to its own devices, it just goes haywire. We have to constantly monitor Cursor and get through the steps versus Cloud Code is really good for long running workflows.
Got it. And then how about, I know since you're a power user of Google, have you looked into Gemini, CLI, or the Google Jules?
No, we haven't really. We used our core engine actually runs primarily the inferences using Google Gemini. We mix it up now with OpenAI's GPT-5 is much better. So it's a mixture of inference tools or inference engines. But Google was primarily because we use a lot of the analytical tools, Lighthouse, PageSpeed, and a bunch of other. So Vortex AI, we started using that for building agents, and they have the depth such that the AI tools really integrate very well with the Google Workspace and
Hmm.
other tools that they have. That integration is just phenomenal, and reliability of Gemini is just crazy because I initially when we started using it, it was fine 1.5, 2.0, but 2.5 really pushed the boundaries. And now everybody's kind of caught up. I think it's ChatGPT 5, Claude 4.5, all are on par. I'm sure Google Gemini's 3.0 is coming pretty soon. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Got it. So let me maybe just take a moment to show you what I captured, and you can explain to me if this is right. So we're again talking about UXBoost.ai.
Mhm.
And so what I heard you say, Amit, was from a prototyping standpoint, you're primarily using Replit, but you also use Figma for certain reasons. And from a production standpoint, you use Superbase. You also have a lot of data that is JSON-esque. So you use MongoDB as one of your other code databases. And then on your backend, you have Node. You're using Python and .NET, solving different use cases. and then you're embedding React through Next as a platform. And you also use other packages like Clerk, Gemini for inference. And then you're also using aspects of the Google's AI platform that is all coming through Vertex. And then you're also using all of this is running on Google Cloud. Fair representation?
Superbase right now it's by itself,
Yeah.
and Clerk is also by itself. So Superbase, we also use the embeddings and other AI aspects of Superbase, not fully though.
Okay.
Um,
So essentially the PG vector part of it,
yeah,
you're also
PG
using.
vector part,
Okay.
vector embeddings, everything goes in Superbase.
Okay, got it. Fair enough. And then on the IDE side, still majority of your team is using Cursor, and then some of them are also using Claude, especially I think the point was long running queries that you're using it for. Okay, got it. Okay, so maybe from a methodology standpoint, let's say you've built V1 of the product, are you moving, like, are you tossing away everything that you did in Replit and then starting it? Like, how are you keeping up with a branch of code in the prototyping format versus what you may be building on the production side? Maybe can you just talk about that?
Replit was initially for prototyping, so we have built like, 5, 6 different prototypes for different applications. All those are gone. That was just initially
Okay,
getting feedback from customers, understanding, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Some of that is still, our front end website and all the other guides and some minor, widgets and tools, all they are still there in Replit. But the core engine and the actual workhorse is really all in GCP and then backed by Superbase and Clerk.
got it. No, no, so that I got. So let's say you have somebody came up with a new idea and you're working on some feature or some module in your application. Is the process that you will do that since you already have a production code base now directly on the right, or you still go and prototype it for a week and then you get buy-in and then you bring all of that code into production somehow?
No, it's we directly go from concept to couple of iterations to production
Okay,
directly.
so
There's
you're
no
sort of bypassing now the prototyping stage since you already have a platform to start off with. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, I think makes sense. I think similar to some of the work that we are doing. And yeah, I think you talked about, so now let's go double click into the Python aspect. And I know you're doing a lot of work in terms of multiple agents, agent orchestration. You're looking at frameworks that will better support you to do that. Can you talk a little bit on that?
We started with Crew AI, experiment with Crew AI, but now we are kind of looking at the Microsoft Agent Framework, and also, yesterday OpenAI launched their own agentic agent kit, which is also looks very interesting. We have a lot of workflows in N8, and again, these are again different pieces. But if you want a really a cohesive solution, we are looking to kind of migrate our agents to a more standardized framework. We looked at Agent Development Kit from Google. That's somewhat is still what we use, but I'm really looking at the new framework from Microsoft and also OpenAI because they provide, I really like the new feature of guardrails in OpenAI, and they have limited set of connectivity in terms of the connectors, and using our own MCP server gives us that advantage of, if somebody wants to do a quick analysis or even a deeper analysis, they have options now to run this locally or in the cloud. Agents are really, agents can work locally or they can work in the cloud. So we're both options.
Okay. So can you talk to me when you're evaluating a agent framework, so to speak? You had Crew AI, N8N solving a slightly different purpose, and you're looking at Agent Kit. What are some of the criteria that you're looking for when you're evaluating these SDKs, these frameworks, or the platforms?
So I think if you start, if we, I mean, we are kind of still in the midst of development, but we're trying to pivot to a framework. One is the evals. A lot of the evals that we never had in N8, and when we go through the workflows themselves, the results are not very consistent each time because each time you're going through, there are probabilistics because these all models are probabilistic. So the output that you're getting, for example, if you're doing an agent session run for doing usability analysis, you might get one set of result for one run, and then the next would be quite a bit of variation. So we once we are able to narrow down on evals of how these, which model works best for a particular use case, we are able to then customize, and we are now seeing kind of a narrowing of that variation where we expect a result with a 5% error. So
Got
if
it.
you have, yeah, so it's coming pretty close. So what I'm looking for the new agent frameworks is the ability to do evals,
Yeah.
tracing, the tracing aspect of it, observability, and something like, okay, what is the flow and how it's actually going through the decision making process. That's critical for us because then we can have some predictable output
Right.
from the sessions or agents that we run.
Got it. And then we spoke a little bit even yesterday about memory and context. What are you looking specifically around memory and context? When
Oh,
you
yeah,
AI
I
looking
missed that part. A good part. You brought that up. Memory and context. I mean, context is literally everything on what we do. And the more context that you can provide, the models, the better output we get. So primarily, the inference part is also used for context in every step. So when you start assessing for usability, you really need to understand deeper into the whole, context of the site context, demographics, psychographics, all of that. That is fed into the different steps in the evaluation process. And context in terms of rules, we have a certain rules that we apply because we when you do evaluations or UX audits, it's really industry specific. So we if you're doing for healthcare, there's a different set of rules versus you're doing for e-commerce, because those set of it's a different set of rules. So how do you go through that whole process is you need to have memory because these context windows, I mean, the context that we provide is really large. So we need large context windows and memory specifically in a context of that evaluation is we don't need across multiple evals, but for that specific eval, we need memory that suffices. So right now we are backing it up with MongoDB and also using other mechanisms that Google provides to do long-term memory. But that is with the new frameworks, that's going to be critical for us to give better outcomes for usability analysis or competitive analysis.
Got it. Makes sense. And what about I think you were looking at Claude SDK also. Is that something you're also trying to take a look at to see, are you trying to land on one programming based framework so that you can use it across or any provider?
We are still evaluating that. We don't want to lock in
Yeah.
anywhere. I looked at the OpenAI framework that much, pretty much you get locked into using ChatGPT 5 or all the other models. N8N gives that flexibility. Google's and Microsoft frameworks also give you that flexibility of using any LLM. So I'm not sure we're going to use OpenAI for Kit for specific use cases, while you we might use primarily Google or Microsoft frameworks based on which gives a better results.
Got it.
Uh, the framework choice is going to be critical because that determines whether you're locked into one set of LLMs.
Yeah.
Uh,
What about looking up close at LangGraph itself and LangChain and go a level lower instead of using a framework? I'm sure you guys have thought about pros and cons and analysis of why you're trying to choose a framework versus go a level down.
Speed. If we asked me 6 months ago, yeah, I would have landed on LangChain. So we have a trade-off between control versus the outcome, right? And we are
Mhm.
more outcome focused. So we need to speed is going to be is very critical. N8N was like gave us that speed, and with now MCP servers and tools that are getting available, that is phenomenal. I mean, really don't need that much control. You can just plug and play these set of different MCP servers and tools and achieve better outcomes versus using something like LangChain or other uh,
Got it.
frameworks.
Yeah. And I completely agree. If velocity and throughput is really what matters right now, we don't have the time to be playing with more basic APIs, even though they do give you more control. Okay, got it. So one last area. So I know you use Playwright in a lot of what you do. Can you maybe just give a quick overview of Playwright, which has technically been a testing tool, test automation framework, and how are you using Playwright, in your particular product?
Why Playwright is important for us is because there are a lot of frameworks that you can use for crawling a website, getting the data that you need. But Playwright is really fundamental because it helps you launch browsers in different modes, headless, non-headless modes. You're basically simulating users. So if you use a core technology that is simulating users, you need full control. And Playwright gives us that control in the sense that you can actually launch a browser, launch a website, autonomously browse it, capture screenshots, capture data, and that fine-grained control is phenomenal. With the new Playwright MCP, you can actually use that same technique inside your IDE, where you can just launch. If you're building a feature, you can ask the LLM, "Hey, use the Playwright MCP to test a particular flow," and it'll do it for you.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. So, anything else you want to add to this conversation, Amit? If not, I'll try to wrap it up here.
Just to add on, the landscape is evolving so rapidly. I was surprised with the launch of the agent kit from OpenAI yesterday, and just in a quarter, they have kind of delivered such a depth of products and services. It's just mind blowing. And I think the evolution of these frameworks is going to be so rapid. Keeping up and iterating faster, that's going to be the only choice. Like, you iterate faster, you look at what works for you for your particular use case, and just go with it. I have never enjoyed building products so much as I'm doing it right now, because it just gives you so much of flexibility to do it. It's just a phenomenal time to be a builder.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think you're echoing what Sam Altman talked about yesterday. No better time to be a builder. And if you have the idea and if you have the stamina to execute, not being able to program is not really a good reason for you not to do it. Anybody can really become a builder with a lot of these tools. Sounds good. Well, thank you for your time, Amit. So, really, what we covered now with Amit, who is a fellow founder with me at Tech Alfreda, is we talked about his product UX Boost, which makes it easy for people to take a quick look at their website to see how good or bad they're doing, gives you guided reporting on what they could do better on the website. Amit walked us through how he does rapid prototyping, primarily with Replit, with some elements of Figma, in almost a week to get that done, and then move into a production system where he's really building with a stack with Next, Node.js, Python, and .NET in the backend. He's using both MongoDB and Supabase as the databases, and a variety of other packages from Google, including Gemini for inference, Vertex AI for a lot of the agentic work, as well as Playwright. From a coding standpoint, looks like Amit and team are using Cursor and Claude, but also a fascinating conversation about agents and not so much the particular agents or tools, as Amit was just pointing out, that tools are changing every day. But what are the criterias for what he has established in terms of thinking about context, thinking about evals, knowing the tracing mechanism of the evals and guardrails? So great fun conversation, Amit, as always. But yeah, look forward to talking a little bit more about what is that you find out when you go through researching about Agent Kit and the Microsoft's new product. And we'll catch up again in a couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll have notes to share.
Thank you, Sri. This is a fun conversation. I think we need to keep exchanging notes and really talking about this new emerging platforms and technologies. This was just a great conversation. I think 6 weeks from now, I bet it's going to be a different conversation, and I'll be more excited than I'm right now, I think.
Yeah,
So,
let me book time in your calendar for 6 weeks from now, and then we'll talk about a whole new set of products.
sure, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Amit.